Hi, hello everybody. Welcome to Knuckle Crafts. I am Tamara Knuckle, your host, I suppose, seamstress friend, whatever. This is no judgment space, okay? In other words, very new at this, be nice. Just like those videos with the men coming up and they're like, my wife has something good to say, you know, be nice to her. That, pretend he's here and saying that. So what we're going to do today is we are going to be making a boxy sweatshirt. This pattern is based off of an 18th century men's work shirt that I make for Townsend and Sons 18th century costume company. And I love making these shirts. They're big, they're boxy, they're roomy, they're fun, but they're boring. So I decided that I would get some Minky fabric, which I've never worked with before. I'm not sure I will again. We'll see. But it is definitely not beginner fabric. So if you are looking at the materials list for this project, I have listed the Minky as an experienced material. Oh boy, it can get away from you really, really quickly and easily, which I'm not so sure how much of the first footage I'm going to be using. However, my first time through was not easy. And I am an experienced sewer, an extremely experienced sewer. I've been sewing for like 40 years. So this is definitely like not my first rodeo, but my first rodeo with Minky. So that was fun. So I highly recommend maybe not getting the Minky, which is like I don't know if you can tell, it's a very soft, like velvet, basically. And I have worked with velvet before, so I wasn't expecting this to be that different. And essentially it's really not, but I don't know, it's a tricky fabric. It ended up requiring a walking foot, which if you do end up deciding to go with the Minky, definitely get your walking foot out if you have one, because that made all the difference in the world. And I actually explained the walking foot later on in the video, in the first time through at least. I'll probably use that part at least. Walking foot, amazing, chef's kiss. It is definitely on the experience list with the experience fabrics. The other thing that you're going to need, I think it's on the list. I don't have the list in front of me, but I believe I put a yard to a yard and a half of the sweatshirt, like bodice and sleeve material, whatever you decide to go with. On the list, I have Minky as the experienced sewers, and I put fleece for less experienced sewers. Fleece is very much like Minky, but it doesn't have as much of a nap to it, if that makes sense. Nap is the direction of the fabric. Like I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but when you rub it in different directions, it's a different color. So the fibers of this fabric are going in a direction. Like they have fibers that are going flat ways, the way I'm holding it. And then they have secondary fibers that are like coming up through, like a fur, basically. It's like a short fur. And so the fur has a direction to it. And you want to, follow that direction for the most part. Fleece doesn't have that. It's just kind of all together. It's more like kind of like a wool. So slightly easier. I'm just going to say slightly. Don't come at me in the comments if it's horrible. It's a sweatshirt. A fleece terry, or like a terry, Jersey terry, French terry, that's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, it's the end of the day and I'm recording this and my brain is not all there. So we're gonna make the best of this. A French terry would also be excellent. That's a classic sweatshirt fabric. For whatever reason, I didn't put that on the list. I don't know why. I think mostly because I wanted it to be luxe, and I wanted it to be breast cancer awareness, which is why I went with the pink bows for October. Happy October, everybody. The other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a tiny little bit of a stretch knit. I believe this is a brushed poly knit. I'll have to look. I'll put it on the screen. I'm pretty sure editing me knows how to do that. If I remember correctly, it's been a hot second since I've made a video for my students, but so, I used to make them all the time, and it's been like 2 years. It's okay. Technology can't have changed that much in 2 years, right? You want something stretchy for your cuffs and your neckline. So your cuffs and your neckline, so that they kind of lay flat, and are stretchy, so that when you pull it over, you're able to put it on. Can we just pause for a moment at the glory that is this sleeve? Oh my gosh, y'all. Like, this is why I used the design that I used, because who doesn't want a comfy, cozy sweatshirt with beautiful bishop sleeves? Like, come on. Like, that's heavenly right there. This sweatshirt, it is based off of an 18th century work shirt pattern, but it is also based on a Boxy sweatshirt that I got a couple years ago for Christmas. That it's based, it has a hood, but it's cropped, but not super cropped, because let's be real, I'm 45, and yeah, we'll just leave it at that. 45 and fluffy. So, you know, it's a little cropped, but, you know, everything's covered. Yeah, 45 and fluffy. But I loved the way it looked on me. I was so surprised. I thought it would, like, make me look choppy, and it didn't. It like, made my legs look longer and elongated my legs, and actually looked really great. So I want another shirt like that. So that's why I went with that, with the cropped, we're gonna call it a slight crop, because it's not like crop top, but then still really, really full puffy sleeves, because oh my gosh, they're just, oh, I love a puffy sleeve. If you know nothing else about me at this point, you now know I love a puffy sleeve. Anytime I can have a puffy, fluffy sleeve, I'm happy. So those are our materials for today. I feel like I put like half a yard on the materials list for the stretch knit. I don't remember for sure, but you need not much at all. And I'll show you numbers here in just a moment. Okay, so what we're gonna do first is, this is what's called a self-drafted pattern. So it's not a pattern that a company has like printed up and you like cut out and lay out and stuff like that. It's not like that. It's one that you are going to take your own measurements, and then you will transfer those measurements onto your fabric, just like they would have in the 18th century, in case you were wondering, and you will cut it out from there. So, and you can, if you want to, you can, create a paper pattern for yourself, if you want to, but honestly, you don't have to. A lot of people are really intimidated at the thought of creating your pattern directly on your fabric. I find it works really, really well, simply because, well, first of all, I use a friction pen that is erasable. I don't know if you can see that or not. Friction brand, highly recommend for your new sewists. It is heat erasable, so it's great for marking on fabric, and then to get rid of it, you just iron it. Super easy, works really well. Only problem with that is, it is highly recommended, not on this project because of the thickness, because of the thickness of the fabric. Maybe this is a bad idea to record tonight. I don't know. We're gonna find out. Or you're just gonna get to play what's that word with me as I'm trying to remember the words. Yeah, perimenopause. It's fun times. If you're not there yet, just wait. The thing with friction pens, they're wonderful for sewing. However, it then makes it also very easy to accidentally erase your marks while you're ironing, because it is highly recommended to press as you sew. This project, not so much because it's a big fluffy sweatshirt, but on other projects that we will do together, there's a lot of pressing. Pressing makes it look professional. It's what makes your project look really good and sharp and finished and neat and tidy. I like to say that sewing is just like the finishing touch of the garment. You're really making the garment when you're cutting it out and when you're pressing it. It's all in the cutting and the pressing. That's where all of your creativity, all of your like precision is important. Not that it's not important when you're sewing, obviously it is, but if you've pressed well, sewing is just making that press permanent. Whereas if you haven't pressed well, sewing is just making that press permanent or non-press permanent. I was amazed at how the quality of my garments went up when I started pressing throughout. Used to be I just didn't want to take the time to do that. Not this girl anymore. I am like such a student of pressing. Anyway, back to measuring. P.S. I also have ADHD, so my brain kind of goes a little crazy every once in a while, especially when I'm tired. Congratulations. You're getting the ADHD tired me. So this is going to be fun. Feel free to, I don't know. I'm sure I'll do things repetitively, so like messing words up. So feel free to start a count in the comments as to how many times I screw up a word or something, because it's still going to happen today. Hopefully not every video, but this one for sure. I can feel it. So the first measurement that you need is your bust measurement. So if you've never measured your bust before, it's fun. Most of these measurements, okay, all of these measurements you should be able to take yourself. In some projects you won't be able to because it's like on your back and stuff. But this one's a pretty simple one, so it's a good one to start with. Okay, so bust measurement. You're gonna take it around and you're gonna kind of shimmy it up so that it's right underneath your armpits, and you're going to lay it very loosely, because this is a sweatshirt. We want lots of ease, right? We don't want it to be tight. We want it to be boxy and loose. And you're gonna gently lay it across the fullest part of your bust, and take that measurement, okay? I'm actually, if you can see, I'm actually holding it away a little bit because I want lots of room. Again, that's for this. Keep that in mind. This project. We want this project to be big and boxy, so we're taking big measurements. Yeah. Not every project's like that, but this one. The next one that you need is your wrist. Oops, other end. So around your wrist. Again, just kind of wrap it around. And again, you don't want it super tight. That was actually a mistake that I made. I forgot to include seam allowance, which I'm going to talk about that in a minute, on my first build. And my cuffs, they're not, okay, they're snug. They're not too tight necessarily, but they're not like really comfortable. So I'm kind of glad I'm making a second one because, well, yeah. Anyway, you can like put a couple fingers in between your wrist and the tape. That would help. So there we go. Ooh, hey, it's the exact measurement I guessed earlier. Love when that happens. And the next thing that you want to measure is your neck. So around your neck. This one's harder because you can't really see it. And again, we want loose. Like around your neck. But you can feel it. You can feel where you want your neckline, right? I think I want it pretty big. That feels pretty good. Maybe a little more. I don't like things around my neck, so I'm going loose. So where I want it, that's where I'm going, okay? It might help for you to be able to do this in the mirror so you can kind of see what it looks like too. So once you've got it, like I can feel where the back is, I'm gonna pinch it there so I can see what my measurement is. Oh, perfect. I'm going to switch this. I'm going to erase the number I had earlier because this is my new number that I want. I like this one better. Okay. And then you're going to need around your shoulder. So not your bicep, which is around here. You want your shoulder, which is up around. This one's a little trickier to get to, but we can do it. It helps if you have a table to hold it. And again, put it where you want it to go, where you want your shirt to be. So I want it pretty loose. There we go. Okay. Okay. And then this is a fun one. So you're going to do up and over because your sweatshirt, depending on where you want it to hit you, like in the waist or you want like a mega crop top versus like a longer shirt. It depends on what you want. So if you don't get to sew with your feelings here, if you don't feel like making a crop top and you want a longer sweatshirt, you can totally do that. And this is where you get to choose. That's why I love sewing. And that was actually one of the big reasons why I started sewing a lot more like in my later years, is because I'm 5'2". Nothing ever fits me. Ever. So I started making clothes for myself so that stuff would fit, because I'm short and I can't buy pants off the rack. If you're short or really tall, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Buying pants off the rack is a nightmare most of the time. I have to alter almost every single pair of pants I've ever bought. I've had to alter them. Which, yay, I can sew. I know how to do that. Bonus. Another bonus of learning how to sew, right? So this measurement, I think I'm actually going to use, this is Dolores, my lovely assistant Dolores. She was a Christmas present from my wonderful husband. Love him to bits and pieces. So you're going to do an up and over because it'll be easier to see on Dolores. So wherever you want the bottom of your shirt to fall on you, that's where you're going to put the end of the tape. And then you're going to make this all the way up to the ridge of your shoulder, where your shoulder meets your neck, okay? Because that's going to be your highest point. And everything comes down from there. There's the shoulder slope. So you want to go from the highest point so that you have fabric to cut away, not the other way around. And then you're going to come around back and you're going to say, okay, that's how far I want to go. So I'm going to measure myself. I could go this way though. I think that's even. Feels even. I'm going to use the shirt I'm wearing. I can see that. There we go. Okay. Okay. And then you're gonna measure your front. And I'll show you all of these, and you can take a screenshot of them here in a second if you want. So the front will be like from the front of your neck, like wherever you want the edge of your neckline, down. So front, down. That measurement. Give you a second. And then arm length. So you're going to measure from the top of your arm, get that up there, to your wrist. So if you're already wearing a shirt or a tank top, go from like that seam where your shoulder starts. It's usually the best place. Kind of lay it flat, and then, and it's actually, oh wait, because you want to be able to bend your arm. That's the important part. So you're going to kind of bring it around, and this is where having a friend might help, or just use your chin. It looks lovely, but it works. There's my measurement. 22. All right. Arm length. All right. Okay, I'm gonna switch the camera so you can see all my numbers, and we're gonna talk numbers here for a minute. So these are my measurements that I just took. These are my measurements from before. I'm gonna use that as my cheat sheet. This is going to be our sweatshirt, essentially. It's gonna have a box for a front and a back, and then we will cut out a neckline, and then it's going to have a smaller box that we're gonna turn into sleeves, and an even smaller box that's gonna turn into cuffs. If you want to do a cuff waistband, that's the word I'm looking for. I don't know, what is that for? 5? If you want to do a waistband, you can. If you're doing a cropped sweatshirt, I don't know that you would really want a waistband on it. But that's up to you. You get to sew with your feelings. And if your feelings say go with a waistband on the bottom, go for it. Cool. That's great. Happy for you. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to look at some numbers. So these are my measurements. I'm not terribly keen on showing you all of them, but they are what they are. And hey, I should not let numbers define me, right? Exactly. They are what they are. So plus I prayed long and hard while I was in high school for that number. Oh my gosh. Didn't realize I wouldn't get it until I was after kids. And anyway, it would come with lots of other measurements, but but you get it. If you know, you know. If you're a hypothyroid girl, you know, you get me. Okay, so your bust measurement is it's going to be your biggest one, because that is for the sweatshirt. So this is all the way around. We want this material to go all the way around, plus a little bit extra, because we want it to feel good, right? I wanted it to be at least this measurement, to fit, like I want it to be this measurement in order to get this measurement all the way around my body. I need to add a little bit of extra on my sides, and that's called seam allowance. Forgive the not so straight line over there. Seam allowance is the fabric that goes through the machine, and I may or may not keep all of that in the end, but it gives me some room to put my fabric underneath the foot of the machine and make a garment that ends up at this size rather than an inch smaller than this size. So you want to add seam allowance. Once upon a time, the standard seam allowance was 5/8 of an inch. These days, it's more closer to 1/2 inch. Most people do a 1/2 inch. You can do whatever you feel comfortable doing. 5/8 of an inch, to me, I feel like that's a lot, but I've also been sewing for like 40 years. So it's up to you. If you want to give yourself a little bit of extra fabric in order to make sure that you're sewing on this line accurately, then cool. That's great. So you just go with your comfort level. For my purposes today, I'm going to add 1/2 inch on each side because for me, that's pretty comfortable for me. Honestly, that's pretty big for me even. Yeah. So 1/2 inch on each side gives me an extra inch. So I need +1 inch for my seam allowance. SA is seam allowance. Here, I'll write it at the top even. Seam allowance equals SA. Okay. So you're going to do the same thing with your wrist. I put it, my measurement was 7.5 inches, felt comfortable. And so I'm going to add just 1/2 inch on, because this is my around measurement. So I'm just going to add 1/2 inch for that one because yeah, there you go. I'll explain here more in a second. Okay, I'll explain now. This piece of fabric, it's gonna get folded up. And so I need more. So if I want a 3-inch cuff, which I do because how fun is that? To get a 3-inch cuff, I have to have 3 inches from the cuff to the edge and back. So that would be 6 inches. So we're going to make that piece 6 inches. And then again, I want a 1/2 inch of seam allowance on the inside. So I'm going to add 1/2 inch. So my finished measurements for this are going to be 8 by 6.5 for my cuffs. Wrist is cuffs. So that's what your cuff's going to look like. For my neckline, 23 inches seems like a lot. Hang on a second. Pause. Okay, I'm back. Yes, 23 is right. I went back, I measured the sweatshirt on Dolores to make sure. And yeah, 23 should be good. So your neckline, 23 inches, that's going to be all the way around. I would definitely recommend doing, okay, I'm going to pause while I think. Okay, I had to pause while my brain processed and then froze. So the neck measurement, I'm going to skip explaining this for the moment, so that I can stick with this camera angle for the moment and go through all the rest of these. And then I will come back and I will explain the neck measurement and what we're going to do with the neck, while we're looking at Dolores, because you need more of a visual than what I can draw out on paper. Honestly, it just is easier. So with the shoulders, I'm going to put that with this. So hang on. The up and over. Okay. That measurement, remember that was measuring the front up over your shoulder and down the back to measure it to where you wanted the shirt to fall, the edge of the shirt to fall. You need to add, okay, let me rephrase that. You can add seam allowance to that measurement if you're going to hem your sweatshirt. The sweatshirt that this is based off of, the Christmas one that I bought, it does not have a hemmed edge. That's part of the reason I love it, is because it's got that kind of rough edge to it. It's just so, it's stay stitched around the bottom, and I'll show you how to do that later. so that, because knit fabric doesn't fray. So if you're using fleece or Minky, those are both knit fabrics. They're not going to fray. So you can leave the end unhemmed and it will look fine. In fact, it might actually look better, because if you do hem it, it gives you kind of this big, thick, bulky area at the bottom. So it just, again, so with your feelings, you got to do what, you feel like doing in the moment while you're making it, because this is a very creative process if you haven't noticed. So I'm going to leave that up to you. If you want seam allowance at the bottom, you can add it. If you do want to hem it, I would recommend 1 inch of seam allowance for a hem, so that you can have kind of a bigger hem with more space, so that you can press it perhaps, or stitch it down maybe, so that it's a little flatter for you. Again, so with your feelings, that's up to you. So you're up and over, you either keep it the same if you want a raw edge, or you add seam allowance if you want a finished edge. That again is up to you. This is all seam allowance. Okay. Your front measurement, that's going to go with the neck measurement, so I'm going to skip that for a minute. Your shoulder and arm length measurements, those are the ones you need for your sleeve. So your sleeve is essentially a big square. It's another big square. So I'm going to redraw it here. So this is sleeve. Yeah, okay. So your sleeve measurements, they're essentially going to be your shoulder by your arm length. So my shoulder was 21.5 and my arm length was 22. So I'm making a 22-inch square. Gotta add seam allowance, of course, because I'm gonna sew around all 4 edges of this square. So I want 1/2 inch all the way around. Which gives me 1 inch on each side. So plus, because your shoulder is from side to side, so let's say this is your shoulder. Ooh, handwriting's losing it too. And then this is your arm. Square that up for you, sorry. So my arm length is 22. So I want it to be 23 inches. So I'm adding 1 inch for seam allowance. So 23 inches. And then my shoulder, I'm adding 1 inch for seam allowance. So it's going to be 22.5. So this will be 22.5. Okay, so I need 2 of these, 1 for each arm. I have 2 arms, so I need 2 of these. And I need to write this down. So my bust, I forgot. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back to, all of this. So your bust is going to be all the way around your shirt, right? We talked about seam allowance for that. So that's all the way around is, plus that 1 inch is going to be 47.5. But my fabric doesn't need to go, it's not going to go that way. So I only need 1/2 of that measurement. I'm so not doing that math, y'all. Pause. I'm a genius. I did that math instantly, guys. Totally. Google did it, not me. There's no way I'm making my brain do that math. So you want to take your total measurement, divide it in 1/2, and that's going to give you your distance for your front and your back, because you have a front and you have a back piece. So it's 2 pieces. So this times 2 is going to equal your total amount all the way around. So my piece here, this is my bust measurement, is going to be 23.75 inches across. Okay. Now, this is where it gets hopefully not confusing for you, but no, it'll be fine. You're fine, because we took our up and over measurement. That's your fabric. It's up and over. Okay. So this is your up and over measurement, and I'm going to draw it like that just so you can tell it's like both sides, right? So this is up and over, and I wanted that to be 45.5. Okay. Now, there's a caveat with this measurement, or with this math. Depending on your fabric and your pattern, you can do this. The 18th century work shirts, they're a solid fabric. It's like a cream or a white. That's your choice. So up and over, there's no directional print. There's no nap. There's no anything like that. And I wanted to keep this project as simple as possible, which means up and over takes out an entire neck seam, which makes life so much easier for everyone. So, yeah, it's just so much easier. Basically your front and your back are identical when you finish the garment, which makes it gives it that really fun kind of, open neck feel, which I love, but it's not for everybody. So again, so with your feelings, go with your gut, whatever your gut's telling you to do. So your up and over measurement, this is for people who have a pattern on their fabric that goes both ways. Let me show you. Hang on. Okay, so quick lesson about printed patterned fabric. So my lovely Minky fabric, let's zoom out a little bit here. My lovely Minky fabric, love, love, love. This fabric is not directional. You can tell it's got ribbons going both all directions. The flowers are going in all directions. The nap is going in different directions. So if that's going to bother you, then you're not going to want to do the up and over method. But if the direction of the nap being different on the back than it is on the front, if that's not going to bother you, then go for it. So I would consider this a non-directional pattern of fabric, because it doesn't matter which way I orient the fabric. There is no right or wrong. There is no up or down, right? So then with this fabric, let's just move that. This is some fabric I got at Dollar Tree a while ago. So they probably don't have it anymore. At least my Dollar Tree didn't have it anymore when I was there the other day. It is a directional, right? Like the truck has an up and a down. The dog has an up and a down. Like I can't make this fabric go this way, because then it will look weird. Like if I have it like this on the front of my shirt, it's going to look strange. I'm pretty sure that all of the fabrics that I put on our materials list, I'm pretty sure none of them have directional prints. Oh, wait, no. One of them does. The black and white check with the ribbons. That one was a directional print. I'm pretty sure all of the rest of them are non-directional prints. So you're probably safe. But if you do have a directional print, I would not recommend doing the up and over method, because it'll be super obvious that you've not done a shoulder seam. So it just won't look as good, which is fine. That just means you're going to have to do a little extra math. You're going to have to divide this number in half and add a seam allowance, because you're going to need a seam allowance. And then there will also be an extra step for you where you'll need to sew your shoulder seams together. but that's all. And honestly, if you are an experienced sewer or even a beginner sewer, that's not that hard. Basically, you're just going to take your small rectangles and make them into a big rectangle if you don't just cut it that way like we are, like I do in the tutorial. Neckline. Okay, so with the neckline, maybe I could flash a picture. I'm gonna flash a picture of the sweatshirt up on this. No, I'm not. I don't know how to do that. Hang on, let me reposition. Okay, so neckline. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, it focuses on my pen and not Dolores. Neckline, right? So, no, I gotta get up. I was hoping to do this from my chair. All right, so with the neckline, you can see it's very, like I cut this one extra wide, and you'll see in the tutorial, I cut it to the measurement that I started with and then made it bigger because I tried it on after I cut the first time. I tried it on, I looked at it, and I just felt like it was like strangling me. So I made it wider. I actually love this nice wide kind of sexy, slouchy, comfy, cozy sweatshirt. But if you'll see this neckline, it's equal on both sides. It goes the same way. So your neck, when you go to cut it, you're really only cutting the front and not the back. No, I take it back. You do cut them both. We did cut them both. So just be aware when you're doing the neckline that however big you make it, it's gonna be the same on the front and the back. I hope that makes sense. And I hope you can see this. I'm gonna have to rewind it and make sure. But yeah, so your neckline, it's gonna go, sorry, this is super soft. Your neckline is gonna be the same in the front and the back. Most shirts, they're higher in the back than they are in the front. This shirt's going to be the same for ease of use. I hope that makes sense. So for pieces purposes, and we'll talk about it here in a minute in the tutorial, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut, let me use my other one. Don't look at any of this or these numbers. Just look at the neckline. Maybe if I zoom in a little more. Ha! There you go. You have to look at it now. So with the neckline, when you go to cut it out, you're gonna find your center. We'll talk about this in a minute, but I want to show you first, like, so you have it twice. So you have your neckline, you're going to find your center, you're going to cut across, a line across that's like whatever your measurement is. So, sorry, my measurement was 23 inches. You want half of that. Okay, this is too small to write in. 0.5. Okay, you want half of that, which is 11.5. So that's how far you're going to cut across. 11.5, which would be, okay, let's just do it on this one. So I want, when I cut it, from my center, I'm going to cut, what's half of 11.5? 5.25, right? No. Oh my gosh, I hate math, you guys. This is the only reason I'm not a fan of self-drafted patterns. It's because there's so much math at the beginning. Okay. 11.5, half of 11, half of 10 is 5. So it would be 5.5 to get 11. And then an extra 0.25 to get the 5. So it would be 5.75. That seems right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. I've already made it. I'm just doing this for you. So you want half of your half, right? Yes. So this is your total back measurement, and you're going to divide it in half again for one side. So like for the right side, right? So this is 5.75, but the whole thing is going to be 11 and a half. Gosh, I hope that makes sense to you. Right? If we do 5.75, there we go. Yeah, like that. And then, so once you have that cut, that's your opening, right? And then you just cut down however much you want to open. If you want more. If you have questions, put them in the comments. And I will answer them as they come in as best as I can. Let's just put it that way. I'm having trouble describing it, but it's actually a lot easier than what I am describing. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, you're basically just going to cut a slit in the shoulder area for your head to go through. And put a ribbing on it. It's going to be beautiful. You're going to love it. It's going to be amazing. Okay. I think I have explained this to death. Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. Let's start making stuff, guys. Yay! So now what we're gonna do is we are gonna cut our pieces. So the first one I'm gonna do is the up and over piece, aka the bodice. And that one we're gonna do 45.5 by 23.75. And I don't know if you've noticed, but this is like the best. A lot of crafters are doing this right now. Taking this is honestly, it's a piece of cardboard box that I got from Amazon. And I just wrap my fabric around it. I cut it to fit in my shelves so that they always fit in my shelves. It's amazing. Highly recommend. Super cheap way to make your shelves work for you. So yeah, there's that. All right, let's see here. I am gonna put this with the back facing up because that's the part I'm gonna mark on. And I just lost my notes. That's okay. Except I need them. Crunch as my knees pop. Okay. I want it 23.75 inches across. I'm gonna take my friction pen, and this did not go the way I planned. Yeah, so my camera stopped recording and didn't record any of me cutting the main pieces out. So I'm going to put a picture on the screen of what your pieces should look like. Basically, they're just a bunch of rectangles. So super simple cutting. Do what you can to cut with the grain of the fabric, which basically means keep your lines parallel to the finished sides of the fabric, so that they are guaranteed to be straight and lay flat when you go to wear your garment. Yeah, other than that, just, cut big squares. Here's your picture. Next up, you are going to cut the neckline into the bodice. And so for those of you who are the non-up and over folks who had directional pattern on your fabric, you guys are going to need to do an additional step, the step 0 of sewing your 2 pieces together to create your one big piece, that we will then, everyone, fold in half, so that your front and back are touching, and laying just like they would when you're wearing it. And then the next step is to fold it in half again so that your front and back are touching, your back is touching the back and your center front, like along the center front. So like from a shoulder tip to a shoulder tip, you would fold that in half, just like you would like to fold a shirt. And then you want that center front seam to be the seam I'm about to point to. Order for my neckline to be curvy, I'm going to, remember this is a quarter, so this is the very center of my neck, and of my bodice, right? These are my shoulders because I flipped it upside down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure over 5 inches because, like I said, I want it to be kind of a big neckline. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to try to mark on this fabric with this pen. It does work after a hot second. Okay. And I've gotten both layers. Can you see that? Okay. Then I'm going to mark down. And let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do I want to go that far down? I'm feeling 3 because you can always go more later, but you can't put it back. So I'm thinking 3 will be better. And I'm going to change that on my notes. Friction pens, you guys, for the win. Not gonna lie. Okay, so I want this to be on both sides, the front and the back. I want them to be the same. You could, if you want the back of your sweatshirt to be higher than the front of your sweatshirt, like a normal shirt is, then you would only cut the front layer of this. So I'll show you that first. For those of you who want to do it that way, I am going to snip. Let's snip. I'm trying to think what direction. Okay, I'm going to show you a hack. Show you the. Wait a second. Okay. So there is a hack. You find the tip, like the edge. You use a seam ripper. This is a seam ripper if you're not familiar. This is probably the most used tool in your sewing kit. You will use it for, yes, when you mess up and you take a seam back out, but honestly, you'll use it to open up a buttonhole or like right now, I'm using it to kind of cut along this edge without, because I can get in between those 2 layers of fabric. So can you see, I poked the pointy edge through. Now I'm gonna hold this flat and I'm just gonna go along the edge here to open up a hole between the edges. I don't know if you can see that because that's not very zoomed in, but now I have a hole in my Minky. So now I can just slide my scissors in. And cut. And I'm going to do it on the front and the back because I want to open up that neckline. Sorry, I know my hand's blocking. I'll move it here in a second. I just have to readjust. Okay. And I'm holding down here to make sure that my fold is going to be even. I'm pulling up with my scissors to make that nice and flat and straight. Because you do want it flat and straight, especially if you want that back of your neckline to be higher. I was thinking about putting a hood on this. We'll see when we get to the end. Okay, so now I have a slit in my neckline in the front and the back, like it's along the top edge of that. And look how messy this Minky is. Woo, girl. Okay, good to know. This is the first time I've worked with Minky, so this is new for me. I have worked with velvet, which is very similar to Minky, so you know, it's kind of the same. So now I'm going to separate because I want to show you how to do just the front first. So I'm going to separate my layers. So this is the back and this is the front, right? Because this is the front of my shirt. So I'm going to take these layers and I'm going to cut this side of the fold. Make sure that your scissors is in between. So I've got, this is my front, this is my back, this is my back. Come on. This is my back and this is my front. You should have 4 layers of fabric here. And hopefully you can see all that. Okay. I'm going between the first and the second layer. And I'm going to cut down right to that mark that I made. So that's my 3 inches. Okay. So for those of you who want a front only, you want the back to be higher, keep your neck warm, whatever. I'm going for I'm going to call slightly sexier version. And I'm going to cut the back as well. So if I were to just do the back, I would just cut all 4 layers at once, kind of curve my, let's see if it'll draw. I don't know that it will. Yeah, not so much, but I would curve right along those edges. It kind of shows not great. That's where I would cut, and I would just cut all 4 layers. But to show you how to do just the front, I'm gonna cut along my edge. So that's half of my front. And then to get them even, check out this trick. I'm going to take this and I'm going to shove these 2 layers, these back layers, under very carefully. I do want to keep these edges together. I want to keep these edges together. Like I don't want to move too much, but I'm just going to tuck that in so I can get through. And I'm going to cut the back. Or, well, the other side of the front. Sorry. And that's how you know that they're even, is because you've used that front edge to cut the back, that 4th layer. I hope that makes sense. Then, because I do want the back of mine to be the same, I'm going to cut this middle section, which are my backs. Beautiful. All right, that's kind of messy, but fun. I like that I just cut out like just the bone. That's so fun. And if you are a scrap keeper, good on you. I am to a point. Like scraps like this, I might keep just as like, I might use this for something. I don't know that I actually will though, so I probably won't keep it, but only because I have bags and bags and bags of scraps that I have kept. I keep all of my thread from when I am threading machines, unthreading machines, things like that. I keep all my thread. I keep a lot of like the small scraps for filling, for stuffing, for pillows. Which is a great cheap alternative. It also makes them weighted, which gotta love that. So that is a possibility for you if you are a scrap keeper. I like to keep those for stuffing. However, I have, like I said, bags of it. So I'm not keeping this because I have more elsewhere. Okay, so now I have a neckline that's all ready to go for my shirt. Ta-da! All right, next step. All right, we have 1 very large bodice piece. We have 2 sleeve pieces and not shown. We have 2 cuffs and 1 neckline cut out and ready to go. So now we're gonna start sewing. All right, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to take one of my sleeves and my bodice, and I'm going to pin my sleeve into the bodice where it goes. I have, if you'll notice, I have kept this folded just so that I know where that lovely shoulder seam is. If you were someone that had a directional print and had to sew your 2 pieces together before you cut your neckline out, not a problem. Your shoulder seams will be much easier to find. All right, so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna unfold this. All right, so right now I just have this big rectangle, right? I'm going to measure to determine which side is which, because for mine, get my paper out here. Oops. Okay, there's nothing like the sound of a pin dropping on a hardwood floor when you have bare feet. Just saying. Pause for a second while I find that, because if I don't find it now, I will forget about it and step on it. Hang on. Okay, I can't find it, which means the rest of the day is going to be very exciting for me. Anyway, so my sleeves. All right, so my sleeves are 22.5, and that's my shoulder. So I need to find that's the seam that I'm gonna do first, is my shoulder seam. So I need to find the edge that's 22.5 inches long, and that's the edge that I'm going to pin onto my bodice. So let's measure. Well, that's not the measurement it's supposed to have. 17 inches. Well, that's concerning. Oh yeah, these are my original sleeves. (17 by 19). Pause. Okay. So this is my long edge, and my long edge is my arm. So we're gonna go with this edge as my shoulder. So to make sure that your seams are on the inside of your garment, you want to put your pretty sides together, aka right side together, or the outside of the garment and the outside, like the outside of the bodice and the outside of the sleeve are going to go together. So I'm going to find my center point for my sleeve. This is my center point for my sleeve. Mark that with a pen so I don't lose it. And of course there's a thread hanging out of it. And then this is the center point for my shoulder. So I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna mark both of these just because I am gonna start flipping it around and it's gonna go everywhere. So I wanna make sure I keep track of those. That is like top center, like that is the seam for my shoulder. All right. So that is the top seam for the shoulder of my sleeve. This is the top seam for the shoulder of my bodice, other side. So I'm going to open that up so I don't accidentally pin the wrong side. And with these particular sleeves and this particular very boxy design, there isn't a front of the sleeve and a back of the sleeve. It's designed that way on purpose. But some of them do. So be mindful when you are setting sleeves into the bodice. Make sure you pay special attention to your pattern, because some of them you will need to have, like the front and the back will make a difference. So like whether it's on the right or the left will make a difference for you. All right. So I'm going to put pin against pin here. I'm going to line up my centers. I'm only going to use the one. I'm going to pin them together. And then I'm just going to pin along the front. Personally, when I set in a sleeve, I like to start at the top of the sleeve and work my way down, so that if something doesn't fit exactly correctly, I can kind of work it into the armpit seam, instead of having it show on the top of my shoulder where everyone's going to see it. We're all human. We all make mistakes, even you know, professionals. So, I mean, just look at a professional basketball or a baseball game, right? So there's always, I mean, you're human, so expect to be human and expect to, you know, maybe I cut something wrong, or maybe I measured something wrong, or whatever. So I'm going to work that mistake into the least noticeable part of my garment. That's my method. Correct me in the comments if you'd like, but that's my method. It works for me. I feel like if I'm going to make a mistake, I'd like to make it the least obvious possible. All right. Okay, that's one sleeve. Now we're going to do the other sleeve. Easy peasy, right? Sorry, that was funny. Let's see here. Which side is which? That's my short side. So this is my shoulder. Okay. That's my shoulder side. And that's the center of my shoulder. Ow! Pins. My poor daughter. She has a legit fear of needles. And I'm pretty sure it's because she has been my model enough times and has been poked by sewing pins enough times that she now is terrified of getting shots at the doctor's office. Like we're talking legit. Yeah, I did that to her. Once upon a time, I actually full on stuck her in the butt with a needle or a pin. Cause I don't know, I was tired. It was late at night. We were doing a fitting for a dress that I was making for her. And for whatever reason, I was thinking that she was like my dress model and not like an actual person. And so I went to like stab the pin into the model. And it was actually her. Oh, I felt so bad. She yelped so hard. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. She's never let me live it down either. She likes to remind me occasionally that, yeah, that I stabbed her with a pin while sewing. All right, our sleeves are pinned and ready to sew. Pinning done. Sewing, let's go. I have just swapped my regular sewing foot, my regular presser foot, out for a walking foot. Let's see if I can get you down here to see that without giving. All right, here we go again. So I have swapped out my regular presser foot for a walking foot. This is a walking foot. It has, I don't know if you can see it right here. There's like a little lever that goes above and beyond, above and below this pin that holds the needle in. And when the needle goes up and down, this lever goes up and down with it, which moves a second set of, they're called feed dogs. I can't get it up much higher than that. So there are these little like comb things down underneath. And when they move, they pull the fabric back through the machine. If you can kind of see them moving there. And so what the presser foot does, what the walking foot specifically does, is it has a second set of feed dogs, these little black parts right here that are bounty, that they are on top of the fabric, moving the fabric through. So this Minky is just thick enough, honestly, that you really do need a walking foot for it. The fleece, honestly, it probably wouldn't hurt to have a walking foot for the fleece. I mean, if you want. It's definitely not a requirement, I wouldn't think. However, having it is helpful. I will say that. So another thing that's helpful, and now I'm going to zoom out just a touch so I can see while I'm sewing. Let's see here. Let's get you arranged in a good way. Okay. You like my scrap bucket? It's, used to be pretzels. Honey wheat, no less. I'm sure they were delicious. I don't even remember. That's my scrap bucket for so long. I can't even remember how long I've had it. Okay, so the beauty of doing the sleeves first is I can put this through the machine completely flat, which is a beautiful thing because it makes it so much easier to sew. And I don't have to worry about the circle. All right, let me check my stitches, make sure everything is set correctly. Start with my needle down because it's just good practice to do so. And away we go. We're just gonna sew these sleeves in. Back stitch at the beginning. And already it's starting to crumple up here. Situating this here. I don't know if you could see the wrinkle that was forming. That's Minky for you. That wrinkle is moving things that shouldn't be moved and making things go where I don't want them. Luckily though, this is an extremely forgiving design. And I can just kind of chase that wrinkle all the way around. And it's not really going to hurt a whole lot. That's why this is such a great beginner design. And backstitch. We backstitch, which is that button on this machine. I push down to go back a couple stitches. We do that to lock the stitch in so that when I pull it out of the machine, it's not going to crinkle all of this up. Because it will if you don't do that. So you want to back stitch at the beginning of your line of stitching and at the end of your line of stitching to kind of lock that all in place. All right, other side, other sleeve. Get all over here. Ouch. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm actually going to start a little further in this time and see if we can avoid that wrinkle happening. Of course, I have to take my pin out. Please, 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 for the love of God, take your pins out before you stitch over them. There are some channels that I have watched that they just stitch right over them. And it makes you cringe every single time, because while it's not often that you hit a pin with your needle, at the same time, it is possible to do so, and it is extremely unpleasant. It makes a horrible noise. It has a tendency to break your needle, and if you're lucky enough for it to not actually break, it will at least dull your needle, to where you really should swap it out for a new one. So just do yourself and your machine a whole lot of favors and just take them out when you get there. Plus, it's easier to then make sure you're not missing pins. By taking them out as you go, you're guaranteeing that you're not accidentally leaving any pins in your work as you are, working. In case you're curious, I just stopped there to kind of smooth this part out over here, just to make sure that I'm not accidentally sewing anything else. I could feel like lumps and ridges, and I wanted to make sure that there isn't another piece of fabric under it that I'm accidentally sewing like the bodice to the bodice or something. That's not fun. You don't want to do that either. That requires unpicking, which is a pain. It's just frustrating when you mess up and you have to undo it. But that's why seam rippers are so handy. And honestly, they're like the number one, they're like the number one used tool in the sewing room. It's like erasers on the end of pencils. Like you use them a lot. All right. So now we have 2 sleeves. And look at that. Look at that. Isn't it beautiful? It looks so lovely. So I like to go over my seams, make sure that I didn't miss anything, that I got all the edges. And I am going to go over, now that I have sewn this, it looks good. I've checked it, made sure that I've caught everything. This is like my first step kind of thing. Now I'm going to take this over to my serging machine. Sergio is over here. I'll swap out. And Sergio is a serger. Love, love, love this machine so much. Because you can do a lot with a serger. This is a more advanced machine. So if you are new to sewing, this is definitely not something you want to jump into right away. You want to work up to it for sure, because it has a cutting blade. This right here goes up and down, and it cuts your fabric as you go. And so you want to really be good at this before you jump into the world of serging. Because if you're not good at sewing and putting fabric through machines, then it's really easy to chop off the fabric that you need. And then you have to start all over like with new fabric. And yeah, it's not fun. So this is a finishing machine. The whole purpose of this is to finish the seam. To give it this nice, really nice professional look. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. And I am, for those of you who do have a serger and want to get a little better, and may not know this, I don't know if you can see them. There are 2, probably not from that angle. I don't think I can get you over any further. Yeah, there we go. There are 2 notches. Ooh, I can zoom in. There are 2 notches right there on the edge of the foot. And those 2 notches are your needles. That's where your needles are going to hit your fabric. So as I'm putting this through here, this is my line of stitching, and I want my needles, I want this outside needle to hit that outside line of stitching, so that everything else that I'm doing with the serger falls in this seam allowance portion. And then that way, I'm not really losing anything. Oh, I'm sorry. I hit you. Okay. Let me zoom you back out again so you can kind of see what's going on. And so I can see what I'm doing. Because as much as we love the camera, it's kind of in the way sometimes. There we go. Okay. You see I'm lining that up. And making sure there's nothing underneath. Because same thing here. Only much more devastating results. If I get an extra piece under the serger, I'm not only like really finishing that seam and like locking it in there, but I'm also cutting into it. So we definitely don't want to do that. All right, and I'm just gonna run that off because I don't need the whole thing. All right. Oh, that got underneath. Sorry, give me just a second and I'll put this back on the camera again. Okay, so that is a serged seam. Let's see if we can get it to focus. Need to zoom in again. Yeah, look how beautiful that is, right? Like totally finished seam. It looks very professionally done, mostly because that's how they finish seams in factories, is with a serger. So again, definitely a more experienced level of sewing here. But it does a great job of finishing it off and making it look really nice. So I'm going to do that on both sides. I think I'm going to give you guys a break for a second while I do that though. So we have finished seams, lovely finished seams on our finished garment or sleeves. And I just remembered, if you don't have a serger to finish your seams, you can leave them exactly as they are, because the way that Minky is made, and you can't really see it here, but it is a knitted fabric. It is knit. And it kind of frays and does go everywhere with lots of fuzz. However, once that fuzz is worn down, it's not going to unravel. Can you see how like the edges aren't unraveling? It is a knit. So it's not going to get ruined if you just leave the seams the way that they are. You can totally do that. I don't want a bunch of fuzz when I wear this the next time. So I finished it. Plus, I love using my serger, and any excuse I can find to use my serger, I'm going to. If you do want to finish the seam of this, your seams on this with a regular machine, let me bring you back down here for a second. We'll look at stitches. So these are the stitches on Fascia. This is my fashion mate, so I named her Fascia after a newscaster in Indy, actually, who goes to our church. She's really sweet and we love her a lot. So I named my sewing machine after Fascia. I'm not sure that that's how she spells it, but that's how I spelled it. Anyway, so these are the different stitches that you can use. Some of them are very decorative, like that one is like scallops. That one kind of looks like snowflakes. I mean, you can do anything and everything. That's a blind stitch hem. You use that for, well, hems. Over here, you can see this blue one. Let's see if we can zoom in again. Yeah, that's much better. That blue one, where it's got a straight line on each side and then zigzags in between. What it does is it does, sorry, I'm not quite sure what happened. My camera just stopped recording. So I'm not so sure how much you heard of that. So the way that this stitch works is it stitches on one side. It does like a straight stitch. It zigs to one side, stitches, zigs to the other side, stitches, zigs to the back. Like it just goes back and forth. Back and forth, back and forth. And it creates this really great line of parallel stitches with zigzags in between, so it holds in all of the fabric that you're sewing. So it holds all that fuzz and the edges of your seams in, while at the same time leaving you with a straight edge. Love this stitch. So when you are shopping for sewing machines, you definitely want to make sure that you get one that has this stitch, which honestly, pretty much any of the most basic machines have that stitch. I think this machine, I feel like it was $150, $180 at Hobby Lobby years ago. Maybe Walmart. Either way, I'm pretty sure you can get it either place. I actually have a link on in the description below for the Singer version of it. And I actually, okay, a little plug for myself, I suppose. I am a Singer affiliate. I'm super excited. I applied to be a Hobby Lobby affiliate, and I'll tell you a story while I'm repositioning the camera. I applied to be a Hobby Lobby affiliate, and they like totally rejected me, and I was really sad and disappointed. However, Singer then like recruited me, and they actually sought me out, and through the CJ Affiliates website, they sought me out, and they were like, hey, your company is exactly what we're looking for. We love you. Please come be a Singer affiliate. And I was like, yes, please. I love Singer machines. I have 2 of them. And honestly, I wanted my new embroidery machine as a Brother. But I wanted a Singer version. It's just Brother was a little bit less expensive, and I had very little money. So, that's what happened there. So anyway, the link to this machine is below in the description below. And I love this machine, you guys. Seriously, love this machine. I believe it's $180 on Singer. I get 6% of that. So obviously, if you're going to buy a machine, I would really appreciate it if you would use that link and, you know, support your girl, because I'm here for you. But this machine has served me so well. I have made so many things on this. I made a leather coat on this machine, you guys. Like, I didn't have the serger, I didn't have the embroidery machine, I just had this machine, and I made a leather coat, an entire leather coat. I'll try and pop a picture up for you. It's beautiful. I absolutely love this leather coat. And I get compliments on it every single time I wear it out in public. Every single time, because it's that amazing. So you do not need a fancy, really expensive machine to do amazing things. This machine is perfectly fine to do all of those things. I did buy the walking foot for that leather project because leather can be tricky, but still, it's amazing. All right, so what I'm doing, this is my sleeve. So I have refolded my sleeve in half, pretty sides together again. I am making sure, well, here, let's pin that. I want to make sure my cuffs are lined up. I am making sure that this armpit seam is lined up, and I'm going to make, because these are together, I'm going to make one go one way and one go the other way, so that when it goes through the machine, it's not going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of fabric all at once. The machines do not like that at all. And one of the best ways to take care of your machine is to be kind to it like that. So, oh phooey. My lines, my edges don't line up at all. Of course they don't. They should. I measured. Let's make sure this is right here. Nope, it wasn't. There we go. Look at it from a different angle here, and that's a little better. Sorry, now you can see. That was part of my problem. All right. Now that I have my ends, I'm going to pin the middles just to make sure everything stays where it's supposed to, because again, Minky. Okay, we'll pin up the other side. I really hope you're enjoying this. It's been really fun taking you along on this journey with me. This sweatshirt journey where it's finally sweatshirt weather outside. I woke up this morning and it was in the 30s and I was so excited. I love summer. I love summer. However, my body does not love summer. My mind loves the sunshine and the warm weather and the pool and the beach and all of the summer activities that we do. My mind loves those. However, my body, on the other hand, does not. Actually, my body loves those too, but it does not appreciate the heat whatsoever. Like whatsoever. I can't do heat, y'all. I was born in Indiana. However, I think my body was built for like Wisconsin or the UP of Michigan, or maybe even Canada, because I just can't do heat. It just kicks my butt. Plus, I hate sweating. Like a lot. Hate sweating. I don't think that's lined up right, but we're going to pin it anyway. Let's see what happens. Ooh, I can show you a trick. I'll do it on at least one side anyway. Oh my goodness, this just wants to curl and... Can you see that? Like I line it up and it just goes right back. Let's lay it flat, see if that helps. Nope, that just makes it worse. There we go. But I want to make sure my sleeves are going to actually lay flat, not just here. Okay, we're all right. And then it goes back again. Okay, that's where the sleeve really wants to lay, and I'm not going to fight it. So, I don't know. Can you see? So, I have this edge between my two edges of my fabric, right? And I could force it. I could force this, but it could end up twisting my sleeve so that it won't lay flat on my body. Here, let's do this. Let's see if this helps if I lay this out flat. Minky. Oh my gosh, you guys. Minky. This was such an impulsive buy for me. I was like, ooh, Minky, that'll be so fun. It's so soft. I love this. Never worked with it before, but let's do it anyway. For our first video. Oh, ADHD. You can be a cruel bitch sometimes. There, that's a little better. That part's good. I think that's as flat as I'm going to get that. For whatever reason, the other side was fine, but this one just does not want to go and line up. Sometimes you just have to let the fabric do what it wants to do. Because like I said, I want this to lay flat on my arm. I don't want it to be twisted, which is exactly what it was doing anytime I was trying to actually line these ends up. No matter how I pulled and folded it. So I'm just gonna let the fabric let the fabric do that. Sorry, hang on. Chai tea. My allergies are getting the best of me today. So I'm gonna let the fabric do that. It really, really, really wants to sit right here. So I'm gonna let it because it's flat and it's the way I want it to be. It's just not exactly where I want it to be, but it's not far enough off. And I drafted this pattern big enough. It'll be okay. This is a very, very forgiving pattern for that reason. All right, let's sew again. And I will use that stitch that I was just telling you about. So I have it on the blue S1, which selects this blue zigzag. I'm not sure what that stitch is called. I should find that out. And then I'm going to turn my width, my stitch width dial to 6. And we're going to be good to go. Now, here's my trick. If you, so earlier I was talking about hiding imperfections, right? Because sometimes well-laid plans don't work out as much as you want them to, and as much as you think they should. Sometimes well-laid plans just don't work, and that's fine. So in my effort to hide those imperfections, I have found that you can hide them in the hems. Yes. And in other seams. So now, is that 100% correct sewing? No, it's not. Professional sewing, you should not be doing that. However, at the same time, even professionals make mistakes, like I said earlier. So, you know, if you plan ahead for those mistakes, it's fine. This armpit seam, let's say that's the one I want to be absolutely perfect. Because in all honesty, when that armpit seam is off, you can tell the sleeve doesn't sit very well. It just doesn't always look the best. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here. I could start at the cuff, sew all the way down, and in the next one I'll do that next. But in this one, I'm going to start at the armpit, and I'm going to go down the bodice, and then I'm going to come back to the armpit, and I'm going to go down the arm. And then that way, any excess fabric as it's moving through the machine, it will come out at the hem, and I can trim it off. Again, that's not the way to do it. However, sometimes that happens. Like case in point, I measured. I know I measured, but look at this hem. It's so uneven. And I'm going to trim that off and make it work, because that's what you have to do sometimes. That's a happy tree. And I'm hoping that when I sew from here to here, I will get a little extra, so I don't have to hack off an entire inch, because that's an entire inch. But I'm going to guess that I use this as a straight edge, and it wasn't actually square straight edge. And so that's probably what happened there. Is the person that cut it at the store, and they made a straight line, but it wasn't straight, like with the grain of the fabric and straight on the fabric. It's just straight on the table. So it happens sometimes, and it's fine. It's not their job to, make it straight on the grain. It's their job to just cut it. That's all they have to do. They don't care. So, and that's how we fix it. Oh my gosh, that's just going to make it worse. I can see it already. Can you see how it's puckered right there? Minky. Oh. I took my pin out and it shifted already. All right. There we go. All right, here we go. Now you get to see the fancy stitch. still gonna back stitch. I'm gonna go a little faster because it takes a little longer. It's a little slower because it's going back and forth. Trying to feel the edge and where the edge is to make sure I'm catching all of my edges with this. I don't have to go to the end because there's nothing under it. That's how much extra there is. Wait, all right. So now you can see. Zoom in again here. Get really in there. Yeah. Ooh, that's still hard to see though. But can you see how it goes back and forth? It has the two straight lines. Yeah, and that gives me my seam, and it catches both sides, so that's fabulous. If I wanted to, I could trim this down just outside the edge of that if I wanted to. I'm not going to worry about it, but if I wanted to, I could. Now, zoom back out, and we're going to do the arm because that was the bodice. Oh, I need to come up and then over. Oh my goodness gracious, this Minky moves so much. It like, this may be the last time I work with Minky ever. I don't know, we'll see. I don't know, it feels so good on though, you guys. The sweatshirt is so nice. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Started at the armpit. I'm sewing down the sleeve. Back stitch. And I'm gonna go for it. And because of all that bulk, I had to pull from the back. If I had not pulled from the back, it would have stayed in that same spot. And it would have just kept sewing over and over and over again on that same spot, which is not good. You don't want that. It's not pretty. It creates what's called a bird's nest, and oh my gosh, seriously, it is a bird's nest. And you have to cut it out of the machine with scissors and then take your machine apart and like get down inside the plate, under the plate, and pull stuff out, and oh yeah, it's not fun. You don't want to do that. So help your machine out every once in a while when it's stuck on thick fabric. Here we go. And you always want to, at least on this machine anyway, you always want to end with, because there's needle up and then there's this thingy that I can't remember its name up. You want this up because that's when the thread will travel through the tension plates the easiest, and then that way you don't get anything stuck or mess up the tension or anything like that. So you can take it out of the machine and manipulate it in the way you need to. So definitely make sure you get that in there. All right, so now that I have that solid, I'm actually going to take it to my serger and serge my edges because I like the way the serger looks. I'll do that on the other side though. Ooh, can you see that very well? The lighting's really good right there for that. You can kind of see the threads on this one. A little bit. It's a little harder. It's white on white. I could be a good show host and use a contrasting thread so you can see that. But I'm gonna actually wear this, so I'm not gonna do that. Sorry. I love you, but not that much. Okay, so now I'm gonna sew the other side, and that one I'm just gonna use a straight stitch on because A, it's faster, and B, I want to use my serger because, like I said, I love my serger. And I'm actually going to start at one end. No, I'm not, because that's off. So I'm going to start in the middle right here. Try to coax that bottom layer down. Because the end of this cuff isn't exactly lined up. This is the one that's off. Sometimes you can kind of get it situated in the machine, but this doesn't seem to want to do a whole lot. Okay. Back stitch. Pull it through because it does not like that seam. Oh, I can feel it shifting. This fabric, oh my gosh, this fabric. Stereo driving by. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can, and it's annoying. He thinks he's so cool. He's not, like, not even close. Oh, Minky. Okay. So if there's anybody out there that's watching this and you are an experienced Minky sewer and you are seeing me doing something that you're just like, oh my gosh, this would help you so much, please put it in the comments because, oh my gosh, I love Minky. It's so soft. It's beautiful. There's so many fun patterns and all the things, but it is so shifty and it just makes everything come out wonky and it's very frustrating. So if you are a Minky expert, please share your expertise in the comments, not just for me, but for anybody else who watches this video ever. And then we'll just make this like the Minky tutorial video. It'll be amazing. We'll have this whole new Minky community where like everybody loves Minky because, you know, people came on and commented and all the things. Okay, come on, line up. Bobble behind it. Look how off that is. Oh my goodness. Those are my selvages. Those should line up for sure. But they're not. Because I didn't pin it while it was flat. Minky. This is like Newman. Minky. Okay. We're going to get this done, though, by golly. Okay, I'm kind of putting some tension on it. I'm kind of like just holding it here with my hand, but I'm like pulling a little bit with my other hand. That so does not line up at all anymore. And that seems to be helping a little bit. Putting a little tension on it from the far end. Look how off that is. Seriously, that lined up when I had everything laid out. That lined up. I swear, I'm not usually like this. Usually, my stuff comes out great. Except for when it doesn't. Which is why we started in the middle. because, like I said, it's easier to hide things in the hems than in other places. I have found anyway. All right, I am going to serge this edge and clean that up, and I will be right back. So as I was doing the first side of this with the serger, I realized that I was doing something that you guys might benefit from seeing if you do have a serger and you're ready for that kind of level. Ow. I was turning a corner basically. So I'm going to show you how to do an inner corner with your serger if you're not sure how to do that yet. So this is the sleeve. I'm just going to go and lining up my dots with my needles. And this side doesn't need a whole lot trimmed off, which is great. The other side did, which was unfortunate, but it was what it was. Yeah, the more we're going, the more it's trimming off, which is fine because I know it's on the other side and we're fine. Okay, so the inside, like this inside inner corner of this is the sleeve, this is the bodice, that's the armpit seam right there. So what I am going to do, because if I keep going in this direction, I'm going to chop my bodice off. Obviously, I don't want to do that. So what you're going to do is you just kind of pleat it a little bit outside of this presser foot. So you're just going to very carefully, because this is thick and lots of layers. And I'm tossing, you can't really see, but over here, I'm putting the rest of the garment up onto my desk so that it's not hanging down and pulling. But you're just going to take it and kind of pinch and line things up so that right here where I want my corner to be kind of flattens out. I know that's really hard to see from there. So it's going to kind of flatten out a little bit. I'm going to flatten that out for sure. So as I put it through, get all that in there. Okay. So I'm going to hold it so it doesn't go anywhere because I want this to pivot fairly quickly as it's going through the machine. So this presser foot is extra long, just fabulous because it holds everything down until the needles can get to it to make it permanent while the blade is cutting. So I'm going to go from going straight here, I'm doing a 90-degree turn and I'm going to straighten that turn out so that this all goes straight, but I'm going to hold the excess right here and like as it goes. So I want to finish my curve first. It ends right here. And I'm starting. So you end up really, you curve it. It's easier and sharper with less bulky fabric. And I'll show you the finished products here in a second when we get all the way down to the other end. And I can cut that off right there at the edge because I'm going to hem. Shoot, I'm not going to hem that. It's fine. It'll be fine. I'll fix it. So as you can see, when I hold it flat, it's a flat seam. Zoom that back in here. So when I hold it flat, it's a flat seam. But when you let the garment fall as it will, it's a 90-ish degree turn. It does kind of round the curve out a little bit, but it finishes it and it makes it nice and it holds everything together. So there you go. There's a corner on a serger. Okay, next steps. Evening out my hems. All right, give me a second. I gotta reset everything. Up positive that this camera angle is going to work, but we're going to try it. So as you can see, that really did not go as planned. And I'm not happy about this. So if I were making this for a customer, according to their measurements and their specifications, cutting an inch to 2 inches almost off of the bottom edge of my finished product, it's going to turn out that it's not going to fit them the way that they want. So if I were giving this to somebody else, I would not. I wouldn't. I would not give this to a customer. I would buy a different fabric. I would do it again. And I would, do a better job. However, because this is for me, it doesn't really matter. And it's all good. And that's kind of part of the beauty of the self-care sew along. Is the whole point is that you're supposed to be making something for you, that you will enjoy. And sometimes we just have to turn our mistakes into happy little trees. So this is going to be a little bit more cropped than I wanted it, but it's still going to be wearable. It's still going to be usable. And let's be real, this is still cute as hell. So yeah, we're going to go with it. So what I'm going to do to straighten everything out is I'm going to use my grid on my cutting mat. I don't know if I mentioned this cutting mat before. I didn't, because that video got lost earlier. I tell you what, this project has been tragic from the get-go, but this cutting mat is absolutely stupendously amazing. It is 33 inches by 56 inches. So if you are going to be doing a lot of garment sewing and you want to use a rotary cutter, I cannot recommend this cutting mat enough. If you have the space to be able to leave it out or store it somewhere, because it is huge, it's fantastic. Because a lot of the cutting mats in the stores, it's like $60 for a cutting mat that is like this big. It's not big enough to cut out a single piece of clothing. Like not the whole thing, like just part of it. And so I was so irritated by that, that they were so expensive and yet covered so little area. And then I found this on Amazon. I believe, I want to say it was like $85. I will go look. I'll put it on the screen so you can see. But it was not super expensive at all, comparatively to mats in the stores that are a quarter of the size for the money. So highly recommend this mat. It has completely changed my cutting game for sure. I've switched almost completely over to the rotary tool because it just does with garment sewing, it's just so much more precise than scissors. And I hate saying that because I love scissors. They're amazing. But yeah, it's just super, super, super handy. Okay, so I'm going to even this out, make sure everything is square, because obviously it wasn't to begin with. And then Minky shifts. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my highest point. And I'm just going to follow that, but as a square. So I'm going to line up these lines with the edge of my ruler. Make sure everything is square there. Oh my gosh, I hate doing this so much. It's awful. I cannot believe I have to do almost an inch and a half off the bottom of this. But it is what it is. Sometimes we just have to make the best of what we have. And my rotary cutter needs a new blade. And look, it's square again. What do you know? Like I said, it's easiest to hide it in the hems. Unfortunately, now I can't give it to a customer because it's so off, but I wasn't going to give it to a customer to begin with, so there. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing with the sleeves. I believe this one's fine. Nope, it is not. They both shifted. Look how much that shifted in sewing. That is crazy. Minky. Ugh. All right, I'm going to square this up. This is really hard with the camera in the way. Normally I would film this part from the other side of the table, you know, so you could see my face and all, but I don't have a lot of time to film left, so we're gonna do it this way. Because, you know, family. Okay. Oops, I forgot to make sure this was square. It's a bishop sleeve. It'll totally hide it. It'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be fine. It's not that bad. It's close enough. Around here, we sew with our feelings, and sometimes our feelings make it to where it's not precise. It's just ish, but it's close enough. Because we're worth it. Yeah, exactly. All right, that actually looks pretty even. I'm still gonna square it up a little, just to get that curled edge off. If your hems of your sleeves are too off from each other, you can end up with two completely different lengths of sleeves, which will be very obvious. So you definitely want to be careful with that. All right, we're going to fold this in half, and we're going to check our sleeve length here, because now that I'm thinking about it, it's making me think, let's check that. And there they are. Minky. Seriously, any Minky tips, if you've got them, you like, the good neighborly thing to do would be to share them. Share your Minky tips. Okay, let's not do that on an angle like that. Let's actually make it straight. Okay, that's flat. That's straight. You guys, I cannot believe I'm cutting this much off. It just breaks my heart. I just cut that, and it's already not square. Look at that, the difference between the two edges. Holy cow. This stuff is just impossible. Okay, I'm calling that good. Whether it actually is or not, we're calling it good. Okay, moving on to cuffs. Here we go. All right, let's talk about cuffs. So with our cuffs, I wanted mine to be 8 by 6.5. 8 inches by 6.5. My 6 inches was because I wanted a 3, that's not a cuff. I wanted a 3-inch cuff, and I was going to double that. I have since decided I'm not so sure I want a 3-inch cuff. That seems a bit much. However, I just chopped an inch off the end of my sleeve. So now sounds like it'll work. So lovely. Let's stick with it. So my 6.5, so I have two rectangles. I have two pieces here, that are 8 inches by 6.5 inches. Because the up and down of my cuff is the 6.5 inches, that's the side I want to sew first, because that's the side that's going to go up and down, like the seam that's going to go up and down my wrist. So I need a measure. I have decided, like, my brushed poly, not vinyl, brushed poly knit, that I am using for my cuffs and my neckline. It has a light side and a dark side, just like Star Wars. And I have decided that the dark side it seems to go better, I think, with the bows in the, I mean, either way is fine, but I like the dark side. So I'm going to go with the dark side, and I am going to measure my rectangle. Okay, so this is my 8-inch side. This is my 6.5-inch side. So I'm going to sew this side, and I want my pretty sides, or my outsides, together to create this seam. Come on. Ah! Minky. Minky is now my nemesis, I think. Oh my gosh. I had to run after I cut all my Minky pieces. I had to run the vacuum because it was everywhere. And we have a very open concept house, and it was already all over the floor in my sewing area. And so I knew if I did not run the vacuum, it was going to be literally all over the house. Fun times. Okay, so I'm going to do one of these with my traditional sewing machine fascia, with our special stitch, our special stretch stitch that I showed you with the other one. And then I'm going to do this one with my serger, just so you can kind of see the differences, with a contrasting fabric on this one. And then we'll go from there. So yeah, there we go. Do that with that one. This with this one. Swap out my settings. Back to the blue. Wide stitch. Go from here. All right. And if you'll notice with this one, I'm not using any pins because I don't need them, because this actually stays where it's supposed to and is fine. It's not like the Minky. It is stretchy, so don't pull it as it's going through the machine. That's a bad idea. It will stretch all out of shape and it will look really awful. So that is definitely good advice. I left my walking foot on. Not sure if you can see that or not. I left my walking foot on, honestly, for ease of use, but also because it's going to pull it through easier. Just make sure with knit fabrics that are extra stretchy like this, because the Minky, it is stretchy, it is a knit fabric, but it's not super stretchy. It's only a 2-way stretch, it's not 4-way. It's got like an inch of stretch. It's not a lot. This, on the other hand, which is why I chose it for the cuffs and the neckline, it is super stretchy. I mean, look, it goes far. So yeah, don't do that as it's going through the machine. You want it to lay as flat as possible. I'm trying to push that curl down that I just put in there. So yeah, just kind of guide it gently with your fingers. It's not going to slip a whole lot, thankfully. That is the beautiful thing about this brush poly knit. However, don't pull. That's the key with knits, stretchy fabrics, is don't pull. Don't push, just let it go through. And backstitch. Uh-oh. Okay, it got stuck. So I'm going to grab these tails and pull on them because I don't have any fabric back there yet. But I'm only gently pulling, just putting a little bit of tension on them to get it to go ahead and go through. I'm not like yanking, I'm not stretching anything. We're just very gentle. In true rookie YouTube fashion, my phone running out of storage, so I had to jump off really quick and clean out some storage and then jump back on again. So now we're on the serger portion of making the cuffs. Yeah, here we go. All right, I am trimming close because this edge is going to be covered, so it's okay. That's all eaten up because I have had to unpick these twice now for various reasons. So yeah, fun times. This has been a great project. Okay. So this is what the serged edge is going to look like. You have the loops going up and back. You've got a double line of stitching, which you can't really see on here. Yeah, both needles are, there. You can see it on this side much better. You see those two lines of stitching, two straight lines of stitching. Got one right here and one right here. And then you have the loop. Yeah, so after quite a bit of technical difficulties, I'm back. It's the next day. My phone, my cloud storage, both filled up at the same time that the internet went out. So I couldn't upload anything to the cloud to clear storage. It was chaos. Anyway, it was digital chaos. So I'm back, and no time has passed for you, so it doesn't make any difference to you. But yesterday was chaotic, yesterday afternoon. So I have our two cuffs. This one has been serged. This one has been used, this one I used the standard sewing machine. You could tell kind of towards the end here, it got a little kind of garbled. I got a little closer to the edge than I really wanted to, so it just kind of looks hacked. But it still works. And this is what I wanted to show you, is that it is still a stretch stitch. Look at all that beautiful stretch, right? So it totally works. Serger, stretch stitch. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So let's move on. Let's put our cuffs on our shirt because we're that far. Yay, we're getting so close to being done. Okay, so now that you have like these lovely tubes of cuffs, you're just gonna fold it, but like in half. So or I guess it's kind of like you're turning it back, like right side out, but only half of it. So this side is gonna stay the way it is. This side's gonna fold over it to create this beautiful cuff that has all the seams on the inside. See? So like the inside of the cuff, the outside of the cuff, everything looks the same, nice and seamless, sort of. I mean, there's still a seam there, but you know what I mean, right? Yeah, it's beautiful. So making sure that all my edges are even. This one's kind of curled, so yeah. All right, and then while I have it in my hand, I'm going to quarter it. So to quarter your cuffs, you want to take your seam and then just pull out. And that gives you your half and half. This is one half, this is the other half. So I'm going to mark that with one of my pins. And then you're gonna put seam to seam or pin to pin your quarters. Well, that doesn't look right. Hang on. I think I was holding it in the wrong place. I was. I like twisted my. There we go. That's better. All right. And then you put your pin to quarter, and then you have your other 2 quarters. Now, when I put this on my end of my sleeve, I can make sure that everything is even. Okay, we're going to do the same thing to the other cuff. I'm going to turn it half right side out, the other half, well, still right side out, but sometimes you just have to coax it out. There we go. Now everything's flat on the inside and the outside. There we go. All right, so I'm going to hold that seam. That's my half. Seam to seam, those are my other halves. Okay. There we go. All right, and my cuffs are ready to put on. Oh, look how beautiful they are. Interesting. They're different sizes. Wonder how that happened. Any hoops. It's fine. They'll still work. See, watch. I'll put it on backwards because I don't want to get pinned. Ta-da! Still a cuff, right? Here's where I get pinned. Nope, I didn't. Success. All right. So now we need to prep our sleeve for cuffs. Move my serger back here for a second. And what we're going to do is we are going to do a gathering stitch on the end of each of the sleeves, so that we can, because I mean, look at that, like, oh, this sleeve, it's going to be beautiful. That is ever so much bigger than that, and we need to gather all of this fabric into this cuff, but we want it to be even. We want it to look good. So what we're going to do is called a gathering stitch. It can also be a basting stitch, considered a basting stitch, that you then gather. So I'm going to show you how to do that next. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the front off of this to make this part of my machine smaller, so that my sleeves can fit through it easier. I'm going to start at my seam. I don't know that there's really a reason why, other than that's just where I started. I don't want to go over the seam with my stitching, because it's going to make gathering harder. So I'm going to start on this side of my seam. I'm going to go all the way around, and I'm going to end on this side of my seam, and I'm not going to go over it, because pulling the thread through all of those layers of fabric is not going to be fun. So I'm going to line this up so that the needle is just beyond that seam. Put my presser foot down. I'm also going to change all my stitching stuff. So my stitch length, or sorry, width. Stitch width, I'm going to make that 0. I'm going to switch this back to the longest stitch length possible, so a 4, and I'm gonna move that back to a straight stitch. Okay, so straight stitch, longest one possible, stitch width of 0. So everything's in there. All right, I gotta move this to where I can see and you can see. That's the hard part. Okay, now the big thing with a gathering stitch is this is a stitch that you want to be movable. So do not backstitch this thingy. Don't do that. The backstitching locks the stitch so that it won't move. And you want it to move. So don't backstitch. You're just gonna sew. Okay, I'm getting close to my seam, and I'm going to stop right before I get there because I don't want to hit it. I'm going to bring my needle all the way up, make sure my little thingy up here is all the way up, press her foot up, I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to give myself a long tail of thread because the tail of thread is really what I'm using here. So we have, let's see if you can see. Yeah, a little bit. We have a row of stitches. I tried to get it as close to the edge as I possibly can, without going over, simply because then I know I can work it into the seam allowance. That's just what works for me. So, gathering stitch. These are actually pretty cool. I think this is really fun. So what I do, and you can do from either side, but you want to make sure that when you are doing it from each side that you use either both top threads or both bottom threads. So the way that your machine works is it has 2 threads. It has a top thread and a bottom thread, and those threads kind of latch together when it sews a stitch. It's actually really freaking cool if you watch videos of like the side view of everything that's going on in here. It's so cool how they invented that. I don't even know. It blows my mind today. But that makes it so that you can take one of these threads, and what I do, because if you don't have good quality thread, it's going to break instantly. So you want to make sure that you are using good quality thread. Please, for the love of everything that is holy, don't use the Coates & Clark dollar spool of thread from Walmart. Yeah, don't do it. I was amazed at the difference. I thought my machine was ruined. And then I switched my thread and everything got better. It is amazing to me the difference good thread will make. So definitely make sure, spend the extra money. It's, instead of the spool of thread being $1, the spool of thread is like $5. For some really good, pulling some out here for you to see, Gutermann Sewology. Sewology seems to be okay. I really like the Gutermann. I'm trying to find some. Here it is. Gutermann thread is amazing. This stuff is, and maybe it's because our family is 50% German, but I'm a huge fan of Gutermann thread. It's a really high quality thread. You can get this on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for you. I highly recommend. This is a giant a giant spool of thread. I got this. Oh my gosh. Maybe January, February. I can look it up and I will put it on the screen. I got this almost a year ago, and I've not even hardly used half of it. already. And I sew every day, y'all, every day. Not always with black, but still I sew every day. So this has lasted me a really long time. I feel like this spool was maybe $6, $8, something like that. So for good quality thread that's going to treat your machine well, and then because you can tell, I don't know that you can see it with that camera. Here, hang on. Let me see how close I can get. Oh, that's really close. Can you see how smooth that thread is? That like there's a little bit of like fuzzy right there. But other than that, that thread is so smooth. And it's because they use long fibers in it to create this thread that is such a good quality thread. So lint is absolutely the enemy of your sewing machine. It is the nemesis. So, okay, I could go on quite the tangent about that. I won't. However, just know, Gutermann, good thread, good quality thread. It is your friend. The thread I'm using today, it is, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's bro thread, brother. It's brother thread. They put it together. So I don't know if it's bro thread, like, I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know how they pronounce it. But anyway, you want really good thread. And here's why. Because when I am gathering, if this thread breaks, I have to start all over again. I have to pull all the threads out. I have to put it back in my machine. I have to restitch all the way around, and I have to start all over again. A good quality thread is gonna let you pull on it without breaking. So if you're doing a gathering stitch especially, but I mean, think about it. These are clothes. You're gonna wear these. They're gonna move. They're gonna tug. They're gonna pull. You don't want to be wearing this pair of pants that is beautiful and you spent hours and hours and hours working on, only to bend down to pick something up and the seam rips the first time. Like, and you're out in public. Like, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Use quality thread. It is worth the cost. And it's not even that much more expensive. Like, 100% worth it. Okay, so to gather, what I do is I hold the thread still and I move the fabric. For me, that's what works the best. Is to make the fabric the thing that's moving and hold the thread as close to the fabric as possible while making my little gathers. And what I do is I only do one side at a time. Oh, wait. Before I do that. I didn't do that yet. Pretend you didn't see that. I'm going to quarter my sleeve so that I know all of my gathers are even. I'm going to put the pin under the stitching, like below it, so it doesn't get in the way. Sorry, my dog is barking. We have Comcast is in town and they are redoing all of our, like, they're laying fiber optics lines so that people can have Comcast, or people that have Comcast for internet, which that's not us, but still, I'm guessing that's why I was having internet issues yesterday, because they're like right outside my house. And I don't have Comcast. I have fiber, but I don't have Comcast. I have, you know, the Swayze, the one that's here. And I'm going to guess that Comcast messed with them yesterday. Anyway, it's fine. No hard feelings, right? All right, so I'm going to gather this. And I'm going to try and get it as even as possible. fabric, seriously. It's a pain in the butt to work with, but it's so worth it because it's so soft. Okay, I think that's about as good as I'm going to get on that side. So then I'm going to switch to my other side, because the longer the gather is, the more I have found, the higher likelihood of breaking the threads. So I used both bottom threads. You can use both top threads. It does the same thing, but whatever you do, you want to use the same thread on each side so that it, you know, is a continuous gather. And you just kind of, you know, very, very gently, you are tugging, you are pulling, you are moving this fabric around the thread to get it all the way around so that it's even. Oh, look how beautiful it is already. These sleeves, the sweatshirt, it's all about the sleeves, I swear. All right, so let's see if we're there. So I'm gonna hold that out. Are we getting close? This side needs to come in a little bit more. And then once I get my gathers where I want them, I take the bottom thread and the top thread and I tie them just twice. And that just kind of locks it in so that the gathers don't move anywhere. I can trim these threads and know that nothing's coming out. And then that way, we're golden, that's this my inside thread. Okay, I'm gonna tuck that in a little bit more. And then I'm gonna tie that. Again, don't pull too hard, because you do not want these threads to break. All right. Ta-da! And then I now have quarters on my sleeve. I now have quarters on my cuff. We're ready to go. So again, pretty sides to pretty sides. Let me untwist this a little. You want to line up your seam with your seam. That's right there. And I am going to open this up, grab my cuff, pull it through so that all my pins are lining up. Find my seam again, seam and seam. Okay, those are going to go together. I'm going to line up my edges. He wants in now. Well, he's gonna have to wait until I finish pinning this cuff on. Okay, and then this pin is the quarter, the back quarter, and it's gonna go with this pin. So line those up. Make sure all my stuff on the inside is lining up. I have an extra. I'm gonna put it in the middle. This side. Again, in between. So that would be like my 8th. Line on my 8th. And you kind of want, I need to untwist this. I don't know if you can see. Yeah. You want all of the stuff on the inside to be as straight as possible. Can you see how it's all pointing in the same direction? You don't want all that twisted in there because you're going to sew it. And when you sew it, you want to make sure everything's straight. Let's see here. Let's put this here. My dog is scratching at the back door. He wants in. Okay, there we go. Lovely. Make sure everything's pulled up to the top edge. All right, next section, sewing. Do the same thing to the other side, obviously, to the other sleeve. I'm not gonna record all of that, just for sake of time and because I need to go let my dog in apparently. So the next time you will see me, both sleeves will be, or both cuffs will be on, and we will be back at the machine ready to sew. All right, we are back at Sergio. I'm going to take the deck off of Sergio. So I have this, again, smaller area, because I want this to go around that, and it's just barely going to do it the way it is. So thank goodness for stretchy fabric, right? All right. We do need to watch out for pins. Sergio really does not like pins. So if you think the sewing machine doesn't like them, wait till you get a serger. Okay, I have to stretch this a little bit more than it wants to go. Come on, you can do it. Oh my goodness, come on. There it goes. Okay, lift my presser foot, take this pin out because, well, we don't want to sew over it. Get it kind of scooted around. Now I need to really fiddle with this. You can totally do this on your regular sewing machine with that stretch stitch that we used earlier. I wanted to use Sergio because he was going to be easier, but as you can see, this is not proving to be easier. He's kind of fighting me here. Get the tweezers out, kind of poke everything in there. There we go. Okay. It's still not where it's supposed to be though. Okay, we may use, okay, we're going at this from a different angle now. I've changed my mind. Go from the outside, which admittedly for me anyway is much harder, because I have to hold this back and I have to make sure that everything's, like, again, still where it's supposed to be. There we go. No pins. Pin check here. Okay, now the key to this is go slow, because, well, you don't want to hit any pins. You're working with some fiddly fabric and a small area. So the name of the game is go slow. I'm gonna go ahead and take that one out too, because I'm gonna get there before I know it. Ouch. Immediately poke self with pin. Ooh. Sergio didn't like that. Too much fabric. Oh, yes. But the slower we go, the better it will sew. So we want to take our time. Because while they're not a super obvious part of the garment for pretty much everybody else, you see your sleeves the most. So you want your cuffs to be nice, right? I just had the best idea, and I think I am gonna do that. So this is a breast cancer awareness shirt, right? It's October, breast cancer awareness, self-care, sew along, all the things. I also have a Cricut and a heat press, and I just remembered that like one of the big trends right now, and I love it, I'm so here for it, is putting names on sleeves. So talking about the cuffs and the sleeves, I think what I'm gonna do when I'm done is I think I may actually put my mother-in-law's name on the sleeve and my grandma's name, because they both had breast cancer. My mother-in-law, poor thing. Actually, my grandmother too. They both had it twice. Yeah, survived. Well, my mother-in-law survived. My grandmother did not. Well, she survived. Okay, so my grandmother, she survived the breast cancer, but did not survive the bladder cancer. I'm pretty sure that they had like radon or something in the bottom of their house, like in the basement, in the cellar of their house. Because she and my grandfather both had, or no, not my grandfather. She and my grandfather's second wife both had bladder cancer. So, you know, not good. I'm going around a second time. I don't know if you're noticing, just to really lock all of this in. I'm also noticing that my loops are not even at all. So I'm kind of trying to cover that because it was not happy with that first time around. So anyway, I'm thinking it would be really fun to put the breast cancer survivors in my life, their names, on the sleeve of this as kind of a memoriam. So, yeah, I'm totally going to do that. I love it. I think that'll be really cool. All right, we're going to check our sleeve, make sure everything got caught in there, which it did. Lovely. And you can see the loops are not pretty, but the edge looks very finished. Let me trim that thread. I'm not sure what's going on with my loopers here because I was just playing with the tension, and that shouldn't have messed with the loop tension. But hey, it did a great seam though. All right, now we're gonna do the other side. I will do that without you. And we will be back for the neckline is next. So I will see you in the neckline segment. All right, neckline, here we come. Okay, so you're gonna take your collar, essentially, yeah, collar, and it is just one big long rectangle. We've got our dark side and our light side, for mine anyway. I want the dark side out, so I'm going to fold it hamburger style, if you are familiar with that term from most elementary teachers use it these days. Hamburger is like on top of itself, like short ways to make it shorter. Hot dog would be to make it longer. There you go. Anyway, hamburger style. And I'm just going to serge it because Sergio is, well, my favorite, and it's stretchy. So we're going to serge that edge. Quick like a bunny. Before I cut, you noticed the pause. It was because I was thinking, do I need these tails? No, I don't. We're good. I'll show you tails in a minute. All right. So now I have a circle for my neckband. That's my neckband. Boom. And just like my cuffs, I want my seam to be on the inside. So I'm going to fold that over. Line it up. It's a big chunk there, but it is what it is sometimes. And those seams line up. Okay. And we're going to attempt to fold the it's like water. just gonna do a little bit at a time here. There he goes. Okay. Just a little bit right there. There. Okay. So now I'm going to take my seam and I'm going to do my quarters again. There's my half and half. Make sure not to twist it like I did last time. And then sorry, I'm trying to even that out before I put the pin in. And my other quarter. Now I know some sewists, they like to cut a little notch right there. You can do that if you want to. I find it harder to see. Yeah, that's just me. I feel like pins work just fine for me, so that's what I use. Now I'm going to take this over to the ironing board and I'm going to try and take you with me, but I'm not sure I can. But I'm going to try. Because this is like the only thing that I really want to be like halfway crisp, to have like a nice sharp edge on it. My cuffs, I don't really matter. Like, I don't really care that much about those. Having sharp edges, that doesn't bother me. But I want my cuff to look nice, or my neckline to look nice. So let's go iron that. All right, we have pinned, sectioned, and pressed our neckline. And now we're gonna work on, well, the neckline still, but getting this pinned and sectioned. Let me put my pin cushion back on here. All right, so I don't know if you can see it there, but in my neckline, the way that we cut it, it's got a little bit of an angle on the corners, like the edges of the shoulders. And I have decided that I want this to be the back of my shirt. The nap, I don't know if you can see it on the camera very well. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yeah, the nap. If I brush it down, that's like the wrong way for the nap on this one. And if this one, if I brush it down, it's the right way. So, this is the front. I want this to be my front. It doesn't really matter because the way that the shirt is designed, it's exactly the same on the front and the back. So it doesn't really matter which way you want it, unless you cut it specifically at the very beginning to have a front and a back, like a high side and a low side on your neckline. I did not. So I want this side to be my front so that I can stand there and rub my tummy. It's true though. Okay, so I know that this is a quarter because of that nice little point that I put on there. And I know that this is a quarter. And let's find our other quarters here. Put those pins together. And that's my front quarter. actually. That's my front quarter. That's my back quarter. All right, so this is my back. Yep, this is my back. So what I'm gonna do, because I want my back to have the seam in the collar, I'm gonna put that part in the back. Again, pretty sides touching, aka outsides touching. Okay, I'm going to save that pin there for a minute while I do the other quarters. Outside to outside. I have to apologize if I just did. If I sniffle into the camera, that is because, or in the microphone, my allergies are just going crazy today. Oh my goodness. It's a windy day, and my body really hates windy days. You know, my body hates pretty much every day, but especially windy days. So I apologize for the sniffles. They're going to happen. All right, so now I've got my quarters. Now I'm going to do my eighths. Make sure everything lines up. So now if you can see, because I cut my bodice neckline to measure, and then I cut my collar neck measurement minus ½ an inch, we did that on purpose. That is so when you put the collar on, it kind of hugs your neck and like kind of pulls everything in to lay flatter. Okay. And that's also why this is all stretchy. So what you're going to do is you're going to stretch it out, and it's easier if you do it on a flat surface. It takes some coordination with you, some finger coordination here. So you're going to stretch it out. You're going to put your thumb down on there to hold that place because it stretches back. But that's our spot. Make sure I'm grabbing the right pin here. And there, I've got my eighth. So now I'm going to do it again. Kind of spread everything out. Pinch. Lift. Pin. Next. Spin it around. Oh, get in there. Stretch. Now you'll notice there's still like a gap. That's okay, because when I sew it, and I'll show you when I sew it, we're going to stretch it out that little bit to sew it. Not past that. I don't want to stretch my collar. I just want to stretch it to this point so that everything's flat. Just to keep everything where it needs to go. Yellow pen. Okay, ta-da, neckline, there we go. All right, and then sew that, let me think about it. I was gonna say so that I have a little bit of extra like definition and dexterity on this little area. I was going to use the standard sewing machine. But the stretch stitch that uses, I'm not a huge fan of. And if I use the triple stitch, which is another stretch stitch on the standard machine, that's a lot of S's, it has a tendency to stretch like fabric out unintentionally. I don't really want to do that either. Just use the serger and round that off a little bit. I did kind of say I wanted it rounded. Let's do that. Okay, we're going to use the serger. All right. Next up, stitching. All right, sewing the neckline. And I want to include a label in my shirt, which I almost forgot to put in there. I want it to go right here between these layers. Let me think about this for a second. I should have thought about this before I want it to go like this, because this is gonna flip up and sit like that. So yeah, it's gonna go right here. I like so. I'm not gonna put it directly over those neckline seams in the collar, because those neckline seams, there's like 4 layers of fabric right there. That's a bit much. So I'm not going to do that to my machine. That would be mean. All right. I'm going to put my stretchy side down so I can pay attention to what's going on up here. This is why my daughter uses the clips. I don't remember if I showed you the clips earlier. I'll show you the clips in a second. Clips. They're amazing. So if you are an anti-pin person, because just me doing that gives you the heebie-jeebies. Like my daughter, she's, again, like I said, terrified of needles and pins. I've traumatized her, the poor child. Instead of pins, you can clip and use those to hold your things together. They're not quite as accurate. I mean, they're really darn close. But sometimes you just need a pin, because it goes through the fabric and like holds it a little bit more securely, whereas like a pin can slip and does from time to time. However, in a pinch, get it? I totally did that on purpose. They are very wonderful. So I'll link those in the description as well. I think a pack of like 20 of them is like $10, something like that. They're not too bad. They're more expensive than pens. However, they're really nice. So yeah, there's that. All right, let's get to sewing this bad boy, shall we? Make sure I'm catching everything. I'm looking back down in between my needles to make sure I'm catching this white fabric as well, and not just the pink, because we want to get it all. There it goes. Okay. Again, slow is the name of the game, because slow is smooth and smooth is fast. I don't know if you've ever heard that saying before, but it is completely true. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's kind of the whole concept of like the tortoise and the hare. That it just, you know, slow and steady wins the race, man. But sewing, this isn't a race. When we're done, it's all over and we're done, and then we're done sewing, and that's sad. I mean, we'll have a great thing and that's wonderful, but at the same time, then we're done. And our time will be over together. All right. And can you see how I'm readjusting? I'm making sure all my lines are even. I'm pulling this to make sure it's flat. Lots of little details going on here if you're not seeing them. I'm holding it where my pin is until oh no. That went flying. I caught it though. Well, my shirt caught it. All right. Straightening and smoothing, making sure there's nothing extra underneath. Okay, there's a fold here that I really don't want to make permanent. Readjust. Stretch. Because this is my corner, and I'm wanting to smooth it out, and I'm also trying to make it as smooth as possible. So. Because also when you are tugging like this, it's also very helpful to make sure that your needles are down so that they will hold your fabric, because especially on a standard machine with a standard presser foot, if you are pulling on the fabric, like you're pulling back on the fabric and the needles aren't down, it is going to pull it out from under your presser foot. It's going to move stuff around. So definitely be careful of that in a standard machine. The serger presser foot is definitely like stronger, so I'm not as worried, but my needles are down as well, so problem solved. Okay, this is gonna be the tricky part because I have a label, I have a really big seam, and then of course the Minky, which likes to be a really big pain in the butt. So I am kind of shuffling everything around here. You hear it pull down when it hit that seam. Sergio was like, oh, there's a little bit more there, but we got it. And then you just kind of trail off. And then I'm going to show you how to do a tail. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a tail here. I'm going to locate my yarn needle. Have a pack of these. I don't remember where I got them, but I'll link them in there too. These are actually really handy for using a serger. So I just fold it over, put it through there. And then you just kind of thread it back through your stitching to make sure that it doesn't unravel, because this is basically a braid. And you know, for those of you who braid hair or whatever, or crochet, well, crochet is a little less like that, but it can unravel, it can unbraid itself. This is really sturdy. That was not a good place to put that. I may need a needle with a smaller head. Or just better grip strength, because carpal tunnel is real. Yep, that's not gonna work. All right, let me find a different needle here. Hang on. It's too tight. This section I did double because I was going over the work that I had just done. So I need a different needle. Wait, that's why I have this. Let's see here. Here's a pin. Needle with a big head. Or eye, I suppose. There we go. That's ish. This may be a little tricky. Go the other way? I'm just gonna go the other way. There you go. Can you see how I did double on this side? And that's why it's so tight, is because this area right here is where I guided off. So I'm gonna go on the other side where there's not as much going on over here. And this is basically like back stitching, where I'm just kind of pulling it through to make sure that it's not going to unravel because it's not a loose end. And then I trim it right there. Voila. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more so you can see. See how I threaded that tail right there. It comes out right there a little bit. I missed a little bit of a tail, but that's okay. Cool, cool. All right, and then let's see my tag. Totally came out. That's lovely. Doesn't quite lay the way I wanted it to, but that's all right. Because I'm gonna go over to my other machine. We're gonna go back to fascia over here. And we're gonna do some stay stitching. Let me move you over here. Or stay stitching, under stitching. Sorry, I'm tired. And I have a migraine because it's windy. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Beautiful. You could also consider it top stitching if you want. It just really depends on how you want to look at it. But essentially what it is we are taking this little flap, the seam allowance, and we're sewing it down to encourage this part to stand up and away from this. So I'm going to stitch on top, from the top, because I want it to look nice. And I'm gonna stitch right along that edge, and I'm gonna use my fingers. This is also called blind stitching because I can't see what it is I am stitching. I'm blind, I'm stitching blind. But it's not that hard because we have fingers, just like Braille. You would use Braille to, you know, read. I'm gonna use my fingers to feel the edge, the seam allowance. I can feel that it ends right here. So it's just gonna go right here. And I'm just gonna stitch right along that edge to make sure that everything stays where we want it. I am going to back stitch at the beginning to make sure that everything stays in place, because this is not a gathering stitch. I don't want it to bunch up. And because I'm going to be really particular, I'm actually going to use my finger and rub in the direction of the nap so that I don't accidentally sew those fibers in the opposite direction that they want to go. Just because, I don't know, it's a nice touch. just went around on my corner, so that's like my shoulder. All right, I need to readjust because it's getting tight. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It is not a race. Some people love to, I mean, you know, sewing competitions and whatnot, and everybody's like, ooh, I did this in 5 hours, which I have very much been known to do. But it's not a race. Like, yeah, it's not a race. In fact, the faster you get it done, the less quality it probably is. If you think about couture designs and people who are charging hundreds and hundreds of dollars, if not thousands and thousands of dollars for their garments, they are charging that much because it took them a long time to make it. And it's worth that much. My husband likes to quote my father-in-law, what is your time worth? Right now, our time is being spent on making something for us. This time is precious. And it's almost over. I'm getting sad now that it's almost over. Like, before I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sick and tired of this project. I've been working on it for a month. But like, now that I'm almost finished with it, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of sad. It's been kind of fun. It's also been a huge pain in the butt. However, it was beautiful. Oh, look how beautiful it is. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's so nice and flat. Look at that, look at that. Okay, last step. I personally do not want to hem my, well, hem. I don't want to hem it. I want it loose and open, so that it just kind of falls and curls the way it naturally does. Because I don't want a bulky, like, to me that just looks, well, actually that's not too bad. But I want it this length because I've already cut off 2 inches off the bottom. I don't want it any shorter than it already is. So I am just going to stay stitch this. It's a knit fabric. It's not going to unravel. So stay stitching it isn't really going to do a whole lot other than just add an extra element of finishedness to it. So that's what I'm going to do. Oh, plus it's also going to help these ends that I accidentally cut off and should have tucked in on my serging bits. Sorry, you couldn't see that. It's also going to help lock those in so that they don't unravel, because that will unravel. Oh my goodness, everything's just falling apart all of a sudden. All right. My machines don't want to be done either. It's okay, machines. We need to be done. We need to finish this project. Finishing things is a good thing. All right, let's go with our nap. All right, here we go. Back stitch, last seam. Here we go. And I'm just going to follow that edge. I'm going to let the edge of my fabric follow the edge of my presser foot, and we're just going to let it go. If you have followed along to this part, I am so happy for you. I am so excited. I really hope you enjoyed this. The Minky, although a huge pain in the butt, I cannot wait to wear. It is a glorious fabric, not gonna lie. Not fun to work with, but very fun to wear. Like wearing a soft, cozy blanket. So yeah. Next up, we'll do the reveal. I don't think I'll be wearing it because I am not ready for that for today. Sorry, today's not a good day for me, but Dolores will wear it for me though, and she will model it beautifully, and everyone will get to see the glory that is this wonderful boxy sweatshirt. All right, and I am gonna go ahead and I am gonna add, because I need to have my heat press on for another customer's order. I am gonna add those names on the cuffs. I think that's just gonna look so cool, and just really make it nice. So yeah, there we go. Okay, the next you see, it'll be the reveal. Okay, so let's look at this beauty. So neckline, oh, so beautifully flat, but like elongated on the sides. Like, it's gonna look so good. And then check out these gorgeous bishop sleeves. Like, are you kidding me? Beautiful. And I did go ahead and take the time, and I put my mother-in-law and my grandmother's name on my sleeve, you know, in memory of my grandmother. My mother-in-law is still around, thank goodness. Two-time cancer survivor, ladies, right there, two-time. Grandma had it, I think, like 2 or 3, but actually, it might have even been 4. It was a lot. It was a lot. But yeah, so how fantastic is this? It's so cute. I can't wait to wear it. Not today because it's a little warmer than I can stand wearing a sweatshirt, but it's lovely. I'm so excited. I really hope you guys like yours. Please send me pictures. canocklecrafts@gmail.com. I would love to see finished pictures of your boxy sweatshirts. Love, love, love. I would just, oh, it would just make me so happy to see your finished products. So I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next month for our self-care sew along for November. Here, pause. I'll do a little teaser. Okay, so these are my fabrics for November. I'm super excited, you guys. I found the camo. I love olive. Anything olive, I'm just all about it. It just looks so good to me and I love it. So why not? So I found this camo, which was super, super, super soft. And I'm so excited about it. And then I found these olive butterflies. And again, if you know, you know, ADHD and Hashimoto's, of which I have both, their mascot is the butterfly. So I had to get that. And so this is going to be a raglan sleeve shirt, where the butterflies are the sleeves, because as you can see, it's a little see-through. So I definitely don't want that as a bodice. So the butterflies are going to be the sleeves, the camo is going to be the bodice, and then I have a butterfly graphic that says, "Life is tough, darling, but so are you," I think is what it says. I feel like that's what it was. Or it's something about fighting. I can't remember. Anyway, there's a graphic that I'm going to cut out on my Cricut and put on the bodice. I'm so excited. It's going to be really, really, really cute. This is super, super soft. So this is November's self-care sew along. So just a little teaser for that. I hope you join us. Bye.